Hey y'all, welcome back to the forge. Today I'm doing a little short video for y'all. Some of y'all have asked me to do a finishing video where I actually finish the knife and you actually see me go through the steps, and I promise we are going to do that. Not on this video, we're close, but I got this little small knife here. You can see it's got about a 4-inch blade on it. Little small knife. It's going to have a hickory handle, just a simple hickory handle. So I was going to show y'all how I do that, and nothing fancy. Got an old hammer handle right here, and you can see I've already cut off of it one time to make the mate to this knife. It's actually two of them that the customer had ordered. Can you see that blade good? But anyway, here is a hickory handle, and all I do is just take this scrap, well, it's scrap now, handle, and just kind of put it up there, and yep, right about right there. Looks long and plenty. I don't measure anything much unless somebody's just ordered something that they specifically want a specific size. But you can see from here to there, and then there's going to be a bolster on there. So go ahead and cut this off. Well, take two on the handle. It probably is long enough, but I'm going to give it just a little more length off of this piece just to make sure. About time for a new blade on the old bandsaw. The next thing I'll do is just bring it up. You see this? I mean, it's kind of oval shape, just a hammer handle. And what I like to do is put it in the vise and just get my rasp a hold of it. This is a small, it's a small knife, so it's a small handle. Let me get my eyes on here. And all I'm going to do is just rasp this down, use this old farrier's rasp. I'm just going to square this piece up. I'm going to take it from being an oval to a square. Man, you got to love these old farrier's rasps for woodworking. Well, this one's getting a little dull, but they are sharp, and they'll flat move some wood. You gotta get the real coarse cut side and then a little bit finer. Kind of knock down some of those coarse cuts. So just flip it over. Ain't gotta be perfect. I could turn. This is gonna be a round wooden handle. And I got this little lathe, I got 3 more of them. I could turn it, but I'd rather just do it by hand with a file. I'll show y'all. This is not exactly a finished video, but this is part of the finish. See, I got those 2 flat sides. I'll just do that all the way around. It'll be kind of tapered just slightly. Ain't gotta be perfect. Could have done this on the bandsaw too. I just prefer to do it with the rasp. All right, now see, it's square, or somewhat square. All right, so on the smaller end of the slightly tapered handle, let's get it in here. I'm just gonna mark my corners. Come up here, cameraman, and get a good shot of the top of it. You see, this is just simple stuff here, but hey, it works. It's right here. So I got center, the intersection of the lines, and that's where I'm gonna drill my hole in that end to slip up on the tang. Okay, so now that I got my lines on here, intersect, you see what I did right there in the center of it? Let me put my glasses back on where I can see what I did. Just take a knife or something and just kind of get a little what am I trying to say? You know, a starter hole, a mark or a punch for your drill bit to start. get it as straight as you can. And this part right here, you can screw it up. You just got to be sure to keep your drill bit going straight, because if you don't, you're going to bust out the top, bottom, or sides. And then that sucks. But if you do, it's no big deal. I mean, you know, it's just a piece of hickory. It's a old hoe handle, axe handle, hammer handle, whatever. It's nothing really difficult to come by. And you could use about any kind of wood you want. I wouldn't recommend using pine or cedar or any of that soft stuff like that, but any hardwood. Walnut's real pretty. I got some of that. I haven't used it. I got a stock of it right here, 8 by 8 by 6.5 foot, I think. Plenty of walnut. I plan to make some rifle stocks out of that in the future, so I had to cut it. But anyway, we got our stock piece made, and you switch sides with me, Mason. Come over here. And the reason I made that little this little indentation here to get the bit started is because sometimes, unless you got one of those wood bits, it's got that little starter tit right on the end of the bit. These might kind of wobble with you, kind of get you off center. And again, it ain't got to be perfectly center, but get down here where I can kind of see what I'm doing. See it? That did it there, but I can kind of recover from it and straighten it up. All it needs there we go. That's probably plenty or too much. Gotta see how deep it is. Oh yeah, that is plenty. And we'll hope it's straight. Okay. So let's see which way it fits better. That's pretty straight looking at. And if it's a little bit off, if it's a little bit crooked, you can as long as you got plenty to work with, you can straighten it up with your file. If it gets off a little bit, you can just shape all that right back up with a file, because looking at it right here, it's a little bit crooked with the blade. Just turn it around this way. It's even more crooked. So there we go. That looks good there. And that's where I'll mount it. And the way I'll do that is I'll glue this on. I'll just fill that up with glue, or halfway up with my glue. Put that in there and let it tighten up and bond real good. And then I know it's not going to move while I'm filing on it. I'll file it while it's on the knife, get it shaped with the file. And I know it's not going to move with that glue or epoxy, whatever you, JB Weld, whatever you want to use. This is what I use right here. This DAP Rapid Fuse. It's just really, really good stuff. It is strong as an ox too. When that stuff bonds, it's there. It's really good stuff. That's what I use. Found it to be pretty good. So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's get that glued up on there. And we'll let it set. It only has to set about 20 minutes, and it's good to go. You can start banging on it and filing, whatever you need to do. So we'll get that going. I'm just checking this again and making sure that it's good and straight. It's not 100% perfect, but it's straight. Actually, it is almost perfect from what I can see. It's straight with the blade, and I know this is the top, so I just kind of put a little mark or something on it up here. Just show, how about a T for top, just to show that that is the top, and that's how I want to mount it on there. You know what? Before I do anything else, before I go any further, I missed a little step. Make sure that scale is off of your tang before you glue it in there, because if you don't, your glue is going to grab that and not the steel. And the way I do it is just take an old rough file, maybe not a wood rasp or any kind of file. See that fresh steel under that? Get that mess off of there, because it'll hinder you. It could. And the glue bonding to that rather than to the steel. But once it's dried, I'm not really worried about it. This is just holding it on until I can get my pin in there. That's good, plenty right there. Rough it up a little bit so it'll grab. All right, now. Get it glued on here. Hard to be enough. If it ain't, we'll put a little more on the tang here just to make sure. Stuff is strong. Just right down in there. Check it, make sure it's straight. Eyeball it. That looks good. Try to get some of that excess off, because later on in the pewter pour, that can be a problem. Just let that kind of dry. I usually just kind of set it level, or not really so much level. You don't want it to run out, but it don't take this stuff long to dry. I just set it there like that. Let that dry just a couple minutes. All right, the glue's dry. It's set up. You see I got a little bit of a gap. Okay, let me back up. Usually when I do a wooden handle, before I do the heat treat on my knives, I do a burn in. I'll drill a smaller hole, a much smaller hole than the actual tang of the knife before it's heat treated. I'll drill a small hole and then I'll heat the tang and just do a burn in or a burn on. And just, you know, put the knife in the vise with the tang glowing red, and I'll just press the wood up on it or hold it in a pair of pliers and just press it on. But for whatever reason, I didn't this time. So I got a little bit of extra hole space, or a little bit bigger diameter than what the tang actually is. And with that glue in there, whether it's dry or whether it's not, that pewter don't like it. And you remember that pewter, you don't want the pewter, I don't want the pewter going down in there and hitting that stuff. And because usually when it does is the reaction it has to that chemical, it don't like it, and it's gonna come spitting back at you. And I'm not worried about getting it on me, but I'm worried about the pewter or the bolster pour just looking like crap at that point. So I take this wooden sawdust here off of the saw and just put that sawdust, pack that sawdust down in that little crack, kind of fill that up. And that way, when I pour my pewter, it's not going to run down in there and hit that glue. It's going to stay outside where it needs to be. Okay, just take something, pack it in there. And if I have to here after a while, before I pour it, I'll put a little more in there. And kind of take this little file and put you a little mound of it right there and just press it in like that with the file. And you just file it right off even. Okay. I've made it all the way around it a couple of times, or a few times, just keeping it round. I'll show you. So there's how it's shaping up. It's shaping up pretty good. Just getting it round, so that side's still a little bit flat. And what I was telling you, if it's a little bit off, you know, you can straighten it up a lot of times with the file and get it back to round. And we'll keep on filing a little bit. All right, that's about as much as I can do in the vise. If this was a bigger, heavier tang knife, I would clip it up at the tang and I could rasp on it with all this exposed out of the vise, just holding it. But a little old tang like this, you don't want to do it because you'll wind up snapping it, or the likelihood is. But you need you a good rasp if you're gonna do this, or a good sanding belt. If I had like this little old thing here, if I had a big, even this one would work with a coarse grit belt, and just go in there and roll that out. But I'd rather just do it this way. I got a lot more control. I can see how much wood I'm taking out. All right, there's where we're at. All that filing and rasping, looking pretty good. And what I'm going to do though, I'm going to take just a little bit of, it's a little bit too long for the knife. I'm going to shave it down just a little bit. Now, you got to be careful if you're doing this. When you're doing it, make sure your tang don't run all the way back here where you're going to put the saw blade through. And just take a little bit at a time, because it don't take much to make a big difference on a knife handle. Look at that. And now I'm just going to take my file and round this over. This perfect size. See that? And I don't have a big hand, but I don't have a small hand. But it fits really, really nice in the hand, and it'll fit even better when I round this edge off of here. Almost. Go around it with a little sandpaper. Get some of those cut marks out of it. Well, there it is. Nice little hickory round handle. Shaped up real nice in proportion to the knife. It'll look real good when that bolster's on there. The handle's all stained out. See, it's not exactly round in the back. I hit this with the rasp just a little bit, and it kind of started splintering, so I just put it on the little grinding wheel, little lawnmower sharpener, and just kind of went around that circumference of that handle a little bit to knock that splinter off. Nothing too fancy, nothing too complicated. All right, we're gonna go ahead and drill the hole through the handle and hang for the pin. That's done. Pin material, what I use for pin material, nails. A lot of people buy spring stock or drill rod and all that. There's no need for that. Number 4 finish nail. That's what I use. If it don't fit through here and it won't quite make it, I'll just go around it just a little bit with the grinding wheel, just so it'll snug through there and brad it off. This little old nail here, like I say, it won't quite fit through that hole, so I'm just gonna go around it just a little bit on the grind rod right here. That fits in there. See, it's kind of tight, but it does come through. Snugged up. Now the pin's through there. And you can use the grinder, or you can use a file to knock that down. You wouldn't want to try to brand that down. It's sticking out 1/8 of an inch or better. But anyway, there that is. The pin's in it. It's mechanically locked. Yeah, I've got it shortened down. It's just barely sticking out just enough for me to brad over. Be careful not to hit it too hard and crack the handle. And that'll work. Pins in it. And one thing I didn't do before, I'm gonna back up a little bit, is cut my little groove around the front of it for the pewter to lock in. I usually do that before I even put the handle on there, but for whatever reason I didn't. And you can do it either way. It's just easier for me to do before it's on the knife. You can kind of roll it around, work it a lot better. But I just use a regular old file and just cut that little reduction down on the end right there of the handle, so that the pewter has got something to slip onto and lock on. It ain't gotta be perfect. These are old backwoods country handmade knives, so I'm not trying to make it perfect and uniformed all the way around. They're handmade. They need to look handmade. People want them to look handmade. You see that around the handle there? Now to give that pewter something to catch into and lock on. Well, it's ready for the pewter pour now. So I just got me a little piece of cardstock that I'll wrap around here. Get my eyes on so I can see what I'm doing. Slip that up on there. You just want to make sure when you get it on here that it's not obstructing the flow. Just look down in there if you're going to do this and make sure the paper's not so tight it's obstructing the flow of your pewter. It's going to keep it from going all the way around. You want it on there tight so it don't run out, but you don't want it too tight that it can't get everywhere it needs to go. Okay, there it is, it's ready to pour. So I just got it nice and straight in the vise. Get ready. Now I keep my pewter in this little tin can. Some more expensive equipment. Just a beanie weenie can. And I'll melt it with this little old torch. I'm working inside today. A lot of times I just use the forge, just set it on the forge on the hot coals, but this is how I'm gonna do it today. Alright, got the pewter melted. I'm gonna pour in this side right here. Y'all may not can see exactly what I'm doing, but there we go. Stroke a little bit. I put a little more than I needed in there, but I'd rather have more than I need than not enough. So we'll just let that sit there and cool for a minute, and then we'll unwrap it and see what we got. All right, unwrap it and get it on, see what kind of pour we had. And you won't get a good one every time. Sometimes they look like crap, but you just have to cut it off. I don't know. Now that's how it looks all the way around. See that? But it's on there. So now a little file work, get it shaped and cleaned up. It'll be about ready to go. File on here and get all these burrs and ugliness off of it. I've got a file, this little old file here. Can you see the edges? I scraped them all or cut them off with a grinder so that I can put it on the blade and file into the face of this pewter bolster without it cutting in, filing into the blade. So that's a good little trick to do. Just file them edges off. So when you put it on here, it's just gonna file the face of that pewter, shape that up here without boogering all this up in here. About got it filed out. Got it slicked up a little bit. Looking pretty good. I got a little belt of sandpaper, tear me off a little strip, put it in the vise and seesaw it back and forth on there and get it all straightened up. A little strip of sandpaper here. Be careful with that vise, don't crank down on that blade too hard. So them file marks ain't want to come out, but there we go. Looking much better. All right, so the bolster is pretty good. It's about right. Just take some of this. This is quad 0 here. Steel wool, but it blends real good into the handle. There ain't any sharp lips or edges right there where the pewter takes to the handle. Just kind of clean that handle up a little bit. Now, I'm gonna sand this light sandpaper here. I'm gonna sand this blade off. Still got that rainbow color. It's got that where I tempered it in the oven, so it's still on there. So we'll get that off. We can add a little color into the blade, get that cleaned up so that it don't have all that rainbow color in it. Now it's ready for some dye on the handle. At least one coat. We'll get that colored up. I use a wood dye, don't use stain. See how it brings out those the grain, the little dark spots of grain in that handle. Looks good, real pretty. Just a little piece of hickory. It's getting there. I bet that looks like brass in the video with that yellow dye on it, but it's not. It's pewter. All right, and you can just kind of play with it till you get the color you like. But I like that. You see that bringing that grain out? I hope you can see it. There we go. Bringing out the darks and the lights, dark and light is what I'm trying to say. And you can see some little faint rasp marks still in the handle. And I just kind of mixed a dark brown with a lighter brown, or it's an amber color. Actually, is what it is. Amber yellow color with that darker brown to get that tone that I want. Okay, now that I got the dye on there, I'm just gonna go over it, rub it a little bit with some teak oil. Rub that in there, seal it up, kind of give it a little bit of a shine. I'll just pretty much just soak it on there and then just rub it off. Just rub it till it's dry. Fill in all them little nooks and crannies in that wood grain that's exposed still. Yeah, just kind of rub it until it's almost dry. And there she is. Nice, useful little small knife. Just nothing fancy at all. That's a really good blade. It's a real sharp blade. Got a lot of uses for it. And there it is, the finished knife. Looking really good, I think. I hope y'all like it. I hope this video by me finishing the handle and the finish of the knife, I hope y'all really enjoyed that, because I'd had some requests to show the finished product or the knife being finished. So I hope you got some information out of that. I appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to, when you watch the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you on the next video. Have a good one.